Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world today. I am Lee Elias, and welcome to the first ever joint episode of We Are Geeks Who Like Sports and Live Hockey. It's a combined effort together between Ray Carsillo, Travis Bowman, and myself, Lee Elias. We are combining our two podcasts together today. But enough about me. I'm joined by Travis Bowman, who will not speak in this intro, and my best friend over in Los Angeles, doing my best impression of Ray Carsillo. How are you doing out there, buddy?
Hey, what's up, buddy? I appreciate you doing an impression of me for We Live Hockey. Like you said, though, it is a crossover. This is good. We've switched roles for today, at least. This is good.
Can I go back to being myself now?
Yes, please.
Okay, good. So it'd
be weird if you did it the whole time, I think.
Right. I hope I didn't blow your ears out with that intro.
You can't break character.
We said no speaking.
You're a character actor.
Travis, we said no speaking in the beginning.
But I have to speak at some point.
Okay, your point's made, fair. You can talk. All right, so anyway, listen, seriously, welcome to this joint podcast. So if you're watching this, you're watching it on We Live Hockey. If you're listening to this, you're listening to it on Geeks Who Like Sports and our podcasting network. And the reason we've joined forces today is because we're talking about a very specific hockey topic that both audiences would most likely enjoy. And that topic is NHL 20, the upcoming release from EA Sports coming out in mid-September. And our friend Ray here had the opportunity to interview William Ho. And Ray, I'm going to let you introduce the interview. You did a great job. It's about 15 minutes long, and we're going to discuss it right afterwards. But really fascinating stuff about the game, Ray. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I sat down with William Ho, the creative director for the NHL franchise, and we had a chance to talk about a lot of the new stuff coming into the game, a lot of the tweaks they've made to franchise mode. There's a whole bunch of new stuff with coaches, with trades, a lot better AI. We also talked about some new stuff with Chell, their World of Chell, which of course is the 1v1v1 mode, as well as NHL 3s. They got a lot of stuff going on there. We also talked about how difficult it is to do a sports game on an annual basis. You know, it's a lot of people take advantage of the fact or take for granted of the fact that this game comes out annually, but there's a lot of problems that can come up in game development because of that. So, yeah, give it a listen. Like Lee said, it's about 15 minutes long, and enjoy. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special We Live Hockey and Geeks Who Like Sports joint venture. We have a very special guest with us today. Joining us from Vancouver is William Ho, the creative director of NHL 20. William, how's it going today?
So good, so good. So happy to be here with you, Ray.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. Of course, NHL 20 drops in less than a month, September 13th, Xbox One, PS4. So I'm sure you guys are super busy right now, so we really appreciate you taking some time. We got a lot of questions for you. We got some stuff from the community, and of course, I've got my own questions. But we'll get right into it because you guys are adding a lot of stuff to the game this year. I want to start off with franchise mode. This is one of my favorite modes of the game. You guys just released a new trailer. I am a diehard Ranger fan, bringing my team to the Stanley Cup year after year, because that's the only way we're getting to the Stanley Cup is in a video game.
Right.
Yeah, hopefully this year we got a nice young core, but you know, you guys have done a lot of stuff. I think what was really interesting is you guys have really improved or worked on improving the trade system with the CPU. When you update your trading block, it feels like fairer and more frequent reaches out from the CPU when you update your trade block. Tell us about what went up into that update.
Yeah, we've really streamlined the trade process. We know that, you know, when you are the GM, that is your stock and trade, making trades. So, you know, it was a little bit of a less than optimal experience, a little bit more labor involved than, you know, our users wanted. So we heard that fan feedback loud and clear. So now you can propose either side of a trade block, right? If you've got players that you want to put on the trade block, the computer will propose multiple deals, you know, on the other side, or you can propose players on the other side. So let's say I want to know how to provide this guy, Austin Matthews, from the Maple Leafs. Computer will come up with multiple deals that you can accept, you can reject, you can counteroffer, and you can do that over and over again. It's a much smoother, more streamlined experience. I think, you know, those who are, you know, devotees of being a GM are really going to love this new trade finder.
Yeah, I know it's something that I've wanted for a while because I'm a guy who loves making trades, and it's felt like a lot of trial and error up until hopefully this point where hopefully things will be a little smoother, a little more clear communication between what the teams in the game want and what you want.
That's right.
But what's another thing that's interesting about franchise mode now is how important it is for your line mates to gel. So you could make a trade but they might not actually. That might really throw off a lot of the chemistry. You guys worked really hard on line chemistry
Yep.
with this year's version of franchise mode. Tell us about that.
Yep. That's right. There's a line chemistry. There's morale affecting performance. But I think the thing that brings this whole thing together this year is the fact that we've added coaches. So you can manage up to 7 different coaching positions within your organization, all the way from your NHL team's head coach, assistant coaches, conditioning coach, all the way down to your farm team. And all of the coaches have their own attributes. They have their own morale. Right? So as you, as GM, have conversations with your coach, your coach's performance will improve, rippling through your lines. Each coach also has their own scheme, right? Their particular strategies that they want to put out on the ice per line. And now we give you a rating on how well each line fits the coach's scheme. If your players fit the coach's scheme, you get a little bit of a bonus. If they don't fit the coach's scheme, you get a little bit of a penalty in performance. And so what's your choice as GM? Are you going to make the acquisitions you need to fit your coach's scheme because you buy into a system, or you fire your coach and find someone who fits your roster, right? The choice is yours.
Yeah, I'm probably going to fire my coach and find the guy to fit my roster. That's just me, though. That's just me. Coming from the New York, New Jersey area, we got those coaches on a real short leash, So
yeah. I might add that also, if you fire your coach, we have over 200 fictional coaches with a diverse set of coaching schemes and attributes, also different nationalities, and female coaches to choose from. So you're gonna have a tough choice of who you're gonna want to hire.
Nice, very cool. Another thing I really appreciate the coaches is I read somewhere that when a player retires, they might be added to the coaching pool. Is that true?
That's right. Yeah. So you'll see those situations where someone wants to stay with their organization, right? Become part of the coaching staff. That is your option.
Nice, very cool. Of course, it's not just all about franchise mode with NHL 20. That you guys have a lot of great online modes, of course. NHL 3s and Chell, and you guys have added a new Eliminators mode to both of those. Tell us about the NHL 3s and Chell Eliminators.
Yeah, last couple of years we added a couple of great accessible casual modes. One is NHL 3s, the arcade-inspired mode, and then last year in NHL 19 was ones, our 1v1v1 free-for-all pond hockey mode. And we rolled those modes into what we call World of Chell, right? A single place that you can go for any online multiplayer. And we thought that, people are going to dabble in these modes and then move on to EA Sports Hockey League. But then when we looked at the actual play patterns of our users, a lot of players went back to 1s and 3s over and over again. And so what we decided to do was to double down on them, brand them Eliminator, so 1's Eliminator, 3's Eliminator, and each one has aspects of Battle Royale, if you can believe it, right? And we don't drop 100 hockey players onto an island and have them shoot each other, but aspects of Battle Royale are, I can enter a tournament, be pitted against tons of other people in a tournament that takes, roughly 20 minutes, and get the satisfaction of having dominated that tournament in a short time frame. Then I can choose to go and play again, or I can move on to something like EA Sports Hockey League. But what's really fun about them is every single match, because it's single elimination, and the winners advance to the next round. Every single match, no one wants to be relegated to round 1 again, right? So you get that intensity of, hey, I'm 2-3 rounds deep. I do not want to get reset. Right. So and everyone's got the same stakes on every match. And so what was a really casual and competitive mode is now even more intense.
That's awesome. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of great matches on Twitch and whatnot once players really dive into it, because it definitely sounds like something, like you said, it has a hint of Battle Royale to it. So I personally would can't wait to see what folks do with this and get involved with it myself a little bit. So
yeah, if you got 20 minutes to kill, you can become a champion and win a rare vanity item for doing so.
And I was going to say, if there's a customization aspect to it too, is that there's challenges in these modes that you can get custom gear or special gear from, right?
That's right. So in our World of Chell mode, we had 900 plus customization options in NHL 19. We've amped that number up to over 2,200 in NHL 20. So lots for you to chase and unlock and equip on your player. And then we'll be releasing more and more vanity items through the year that can be earned through something we call weekly Chell challenges. So to reward those players who come back to World of Chell every week, like to play multiple modes, like to go deep in them and master them, you can complete these tasks. And if you complete all 15 tasks within a 7-day window, you get an uber rare vanity item.
Awesome, very cool. So then we've talked a lot about what's new to the game, but I also want to talk about you a little bit, William, because you've got a background, of course, as a developer. You've been at the EA for a long time. You worked on, before coming to NHL, Need for Speed.
That's right.
Yeah. So I wanted to know, on a personal level, going from Need for Speed to hockey, going to NHL, what kind of a transition was that for you, and what did you learn at Need for Speed that you maybe influenced you here at the NHL guys?
First of all, I'll say that it's really a gift that I've been able to make a career out of working on sports games and racing games. That's why I grew up playing, and that's why I wanted to make when I grew up. And I'm living not only one dream but two dreams. And I think over the last 20 plus years, what I've learned from working on sports games and racing games is that really, it's about making people feel like heroes. Right? People aspire to this race driver or owning that car. Well, that's no different from aspiring to playing for a certain team or, following the steps of a hockey idol, right? So you take those two fantasies, and there's a lot in common of, how do you teach people how to play the sport? How do you teach them to go deep in it? How do you teach them to be masters? How do you give feedback in a video game to make people feel like they're progressing? How do you put people in worlds where people not only follow the stories of the heroes, but create stories of their own through their actions, right? Yeah. So really, those are the general principles of gaming, which, come up over and over again. Everything happens in cycles. And so just year in, year out, no matter what franchise I've worked on, I think those are the core components of making a great video game.
That's awesome. And it's true, right? Like the idea, I remember playing Madden and NHL and all these games growing up and thinking, I'm making my own narrative here, right? Whether I'm a two-time Stanley Cup defending champion or I'm trying to go from, zeros to heroes, right? Like you're making that own story. And I think that gives those players that ownership. And that's very cool that you guys are still continuing that.
I'm a lifelong Oilers fan, so I know success, and I've seen failure, more failure in recent years.
Yeah,
I can rewrite my own Oilers history books, whether I'm playing Play Now or I'm playing in franchise mode. Right? I can do it every night, or I can do it over the course of the year.
Yeah, exactly. No, for sure. Well, good luck to your Oilers this year. I think you guys have a young, great core. You've been underperforming, the past couple of years.
I think there'll be one more year of pain, and then once the cap clears, they've got a bit more cap space next year. Let Ken Holland and his guys really rebuild the franchise around McDavid and Draisaitl and Nuge.
Yeah, I mean they're such great talents. I mean, you guys, that's what you have, that young core there. You just get yourself some solid goaltending, and I think you'll be set.
Yeah. Let's have some bona fide top two defensemen. Let's have some stability in goal.
Yeah.
Next year will be a good year.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the new consoles. Of course, we've been hearing a lot about PS5. Xbox Scarlet was announced at E3 this year. But you guys are an annual franchise. How hard is it for you guys, especially looking back at the last generation transition? Are you guys starting to gear up already for this generational shift, because you do have to make a game year to year? And what are you guys doing to maybe make that transition as smooth as possible in the next couple
12 months is not a lot of time to make a video game to top quality every single year. So every year, no matter whether it's the same console generation or a new console generation, we have to place very smart bets, right? And those bets are basically where we know and where we think our players are going to want, right? Their favorite features, their favorite modes. They're going to want the game to look good and play well. So that challenge is there every single year, but we do look ahead and we go, well, what's on the horizon? How do we prepare ourselves for these new consoles? How do we prepare ourselves for even just beyond consoles, just the changing needs of players, right? Some players are able to sink tons of time into something like franchise mode or EA Sports Hockey League. Other players, or even those same players, have shorter time windows, right? Hockey fans have kids and other obligations, right? So it's not just a tech problem. It's looking at our players and what they need in a given cycle, and how do we cater to those needs so that everyone feels like they're getting enough value from buying and playing NHL every single year.
Very cool. I think that actually kind of answers our fan question, but I'm going to go to it now. And we got this a few times from our audience at We Live Hockey. And they say basically there's a bit of chatter online right now that they feel that EA and EA Sports might not really be listening to them when it comes to the things that they want and they request. What would you say that the franchise and what you guys are doing to try to address as many people's wants and desires from the franchise on that annual basis?
Something I'm really proud of the NHL team doing is constantly listening to fans. Now, I think there's a distinction between listening to fans and acting on it and listening to fans and going, we want to do this, but again, we have to be smart about what we add to each game so that a maximum number of players feel like we've upgraded the game for them, right? And that we're not making features that are for a relatively small number of people or for many players, but they're only going to try it once and then that's it, right? So when we add modes like threes or ones, we're seeing that threes, even in its third year, has a lot of people playing this mode and wanting more out of it. And so we added threes eliminator, right? We also added the ability to play as EA Sports Hockey League clubs in threes and to have outdoor ranks and all these things that keep it fresh. So when I hear that people feel that they aren't being listened to, I do want to assure everyone that we listen to everyone. It's just that on an annual cycle, we have to place our bets, and we can't place our bets on the entire table every single year, or else quality will definitely suffer. And we want better features for more players at top quality.
For sure. And then also to follow up on that, I think one of the big things that we've also heard specifically, you guys do a lot with esports and with HUT, obviously Hockey Ultimate Team. There's a lot of great competitions that EA kind of sponsors, but we've heard a lot of chatter that people want to see the EA SHL tournaments come back. You guys, since EA SHL was introduced in NHL 09, there's only been really two or 3 years of, sanctioned EA Sports. Like, is there ever a thought of possibly bringing EA SHL back to that esports pro level where it's obviously sponsored by EA and whatnot?
Yeah, there are a couple things I have to say about that. One is that the Gaming World Championships that we've collaborated with the NHL on has been wildly successful. We've had so many players, enter and qualify and advance, and then, finally to have the bona fide best players in the world playing in Vegas for real cash, right? To see Gary Bettman on that stage hand a $50,000 check to Top Shelf Cookie, amazing moment, right? Who could have imagined that happening, X number of years ago? So that that's been a wild success, and I think you'll see more along those lines in the Gaming World Championships. And then for multiple different levels of competition, I feel that while we don't have an EA sanctioned league, we have multiple grassroots leagues. I'd like to particularly call out Brody McDonald and his league gaming league, where he's literally thousands of players engaged, night in, night out, week in, week out, playing in eShow, right? And I think it's those kinds of efforts that over time, as we get just more buzz about competitive gaming, we get more interested parties, we get more eyeballs on it. I think that the stakes will just raise themselves over time, right? And it won't just be the NHL offering cash and fame, but I think we will see this grow over time.
Awesome. So there you go, folks. Make sure to keep playing EA SHL, and who knows what'll happen, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. William, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. We're going to let you go back to putting the final finishing touches on the game. We can't wait to play it, of course, for Xbox One and PlayStation 4 on September 13th. Thank you again so much for your time, William. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ray. It's been a pleasure.
So before we start discussing this, we really should thank EA Sports and William Ho specifically for coming on and doing that interview with us. They're extremely busy this time of year. They really did open up a window of time to give us that interview, and they do that knowing that we may love it, we may criticize it. We're going to give our natural thoughts. So a lot of credit to EA Sports for giving Ray and us the time there. But let's jump into it, and we'll kind of go item by item here for both Ray and Travis. So the first thing I talked about was trades, which is something that's been just unbelievably frustrating for many years, to the point that the NHL or fans of the NHL will put trades through the system to show how ridiculous it is, from real trades, which most games do. But what do you guys feel overall about just the new trade system? It sounds like it's going to be a much more enjoyable or less frustrating experience.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that they've needed to do for a long time, like you mentioned. Like, it's definitely one of the things that has frustrated me. I'm a huge franchise mode fan. I love being my own GM. I love taking the Rangers to the Cup every year, again and again and again. But trying to make your team better, trying to find, I'm sure you guys do the same thing with the Flyers. I'm just saying, like,
no, no, we never do that.
I actually never play as the Flyers. It's always created teams.
Really?
Dude,
I will say that I have done more created teams in the past couple of years because of the adding the 30-second franchise mode. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah. It's fun.
Yeah.
Dude, Seattle Salmon. That's all the way.
It's actually my Seattle Sea Dogs, as I prefer to call them. They look like a steroided out version of the Islanders' Gordon's Fishermen. But anyway, yeah, no, I think this is something that's needed to be done for a long, long time, and I'm super excited that they actually finally have looked at the AI diagrams and whatnot and figured out a way to make this more efficient and more realistic to what the actual game is in real life.
I'm always kind of
another thing too about the trades is that. Oh, go ahead, Travis. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say I'm always kind of torn with the trades, just because I always want more realism in the game, but as a hockey player, I feel like it's never quite as real as I want it to be, and sometimes when they put in more realism, it becomes more frustrating. So I'm always kind of I'm looking forward to see the changes. Because some of the trades now are asinine, but I'm wondering if they add more to it, that it'll just become frustrating because some made up thing where like somebody doesn't want to be traded somewhere will stop me from doing what I want to do.
Yeah, I think that's one of the cool things about the options. The funny thing about trades in the NHL, I think this is something that this is more an EA Sports problem, is that the NHL trades probably more than the other leagues do in season. I mean, football rarely does it at all. Same thing with baseball. I mean, when you get to the trade deadline, it kind of happens, but it's usually a 2 or 3 day thing. And then basketball is very much an off-season acquisition type thing. So I think that this has kind of been something that's been the wayside just because it's not common in the other sports. So it's probably not something they've had to look at. And as William said in the interview, this probably has been something they've wanted to address for a long time, but they haven't been able to because they have other things that they have to kind of fix and move on to. But speaking of that, one of the things they've added this year, which was funny to me, outside this kind of GM mode thing, is this coaching mode now where you can select from 200 coaches, male and female, different types of coaches, different types of systems, and then the coaching depth from your NHL squad all the way through the AHL, in which will also have a plus or minus effect on performance on your players. And Travis, this goes back to what you were saying about how realistic you can make this. Now, here's the problem I have. I'm going to give full disclosure, okay? If I didn't already coach, and if I was just really strictly a fan, I might see myself as, okay, that's kind of cool. I can enjoy that. As a coach, I have no desire to do this in a video game because I do it in real life. You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. But I kind of want to get your thoughts on this, starting with Travis here, of just, is that something you would want to do? I mean, do you care enough to do that? I mean, I know there's people out there that want to do it, or else they wouldn't have created it. It is. I want to say this. It is a cool idea. I'm not against this mode. I'm just curious what the general public's going to think about it.
It's like one of those things where like it sounds really cool, and obviously it makes it more immersive, which is always something I want. But I mean, I do you guys remember when Madden? And this is going way back. I think Madden 2005, you could create your own fans that came up in the little scenes in between plays, and I thought it was really cool at first. And then after like playing the game for a week, I didn't care at all anymore. I was like, just skip this. Like, I could see the coaching thing being kind of like that, where it's like, it's really cool for the first week, and then after that, it's going to be getting to the point where it's like, I want to trade for Panarin or something, but he doesn't fit into the system, so now I have to fire the coach or revamp the team, and I could see that being cool at first and then getting really annoying really fast. So I'm kind of torn on how I feel about it.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Travis on this. I need to see it implemented to see how well it will work, because you run the risk of spending more time in menus and in screens and just like being like, yes, I'll make my coach happy, or no, I don't care. I'm going to, like Travis said, I'm going to fire him, or I'm going to change my whole scheme, or all this other stuff. And like, you run the risk of you end up being in menus more than you actually are playing the game on the ice and actually having fun. It becomes a chore almost. Whether or not, I'm sure they've play tested this, and obviously they've tried their best to make sure that this is going to appeal to more people than not. But it's going to be interesting to see that once it hits the public, because you really don't know until it hits, your fan base, whether or not this is actually going to resonate. But I'm with Travis. I think it's something that we need to kind of take a wait-and-see approach on, but it's worrisome because this has happened before where sometimes they innovate for the sake of innovating, and they don't realize that it actually takes away it takes away more from the game than it adds to it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Well, it's like they added the scouting staff, I think, for 19. I think it's only in 19. It's not in 18. So they added where you have you can hire fire scouts, and it revamped the amateur system.
Yep.
And
that returns here as well, by the way.
Yeah, it's a cool idea, but and I don't really mind it when... Actually, no, that's a lie. I do mind it, because then I'm sitting there and I have to individually tell each scout where they have to do here and here and here, and it's like, man, just find me players to draft in the 4th round. Like, I don't care. Like, I want to play the game. Like,
so here's the thing. Here's the thing you're both saying, okay? And they're both these are all good points, right? Here's the thing. I wonder if there's a game in the game here, because we're talking about, I just want to play the games. I'm wondering now if there's a sect of people that actually aren't really interested in the actual gameplay as much as they're interested in playing GM, playing coach. Because I can tell you this right now.
Yeah.
Not that I'm excited about the idea of an AI coaching system, but I could be intrigued, like especially when I was younger and maybe not as active in coaching as I am. I could have done the GM and coaching side of this and actually not played the games and enjoyed that. As weird as that sounds, okay? So, and I know that there's, the NHL also might be playing, EA Sports might also be playing a little defense here, because there's a lot of apps out there right now you can get on your iPhone that do just that. You play GM, you work the building, you work on better facilities for your players, and you don't actually play any games on your phone. It's just, you're literally just playing franchise. So I wonder if it's a little bit of defense on that, and I wonder, and again, they said they have the research on this. I wonder if there is a need for players that maybe don't want to play the game as much as they want to GM, coach, trade, find scouts, do these things. So it's all part of that kind of, I guess, VR type attitude with it, or like you said, augmented reality, the experience of a full franchise mode. Maybe they're building towards something bigger for the future. But look, as you guys said, I could also see if I play the games, it'll be fun for about 5 games. There's no way it's going to have the endurance for an 82-game season with a majority of players. But speaking of the actual gameplay, which we're talking about, another new mode that they brought in, Ray, which I think all 3 of us kind of agree is a great idea, was this Battle Royale with NHL 1s, where you can jump in now a tournament that, and Williams said, if you got 20 minutes, I love that he said, you got 20 minutes, you just want to play for 20 minutes, you can get in a tournament, you can win the tournament. And I thought that was a really cool addition to the game, because I am the type of player where I legit don't have the time to dedicate to the full 82 games. I probably don't have time to do 20 games a year. But when you tell me you bring in an arcade mode and I can start fresh every time I play and finish, it's exciting to me. That makes me want to play the game. So what are your, starting with Ray on this one, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's obviously you're following the trends of current gaming culture. Everybody has to have some sort of a battle royale mode. But I think that obviously when you have a sports game, there's that natural inclination to competition already anyway. And I think that finding a way to, it's 1v1v1, so you have 27 matches, down to 9 matches, down to 3, then you have your champion. I think you could very quickly... Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think that anytime you add more competitive modes and where it's people, player versus player, in this case player versus player versus player, I think that it's a great thing. It's a great idea, and it's a way of getting more bang for your buck when it comes to these modes. Because I'm sure there's going to be people who just want to play 1v1v1 casually with friends and whatnot. But like you said, when you add that level of competition, and obviously there's a chance that this becomes an esport within itself. Obviously there's already the Hut League, Hockey Ultimate Team with NHL. There's been many talks that people have been clamoring for them to bring back the EA SHL competitive the esports tournaments. So for them to do that now, at least with with Chell, with 1v1v1, and also with NHL 3s, I think it's a good thing. Anytime you add more competitive modes to a competitive game, I can't see it as anything but less than a good thing.
I mean, any new modes are always a good thing. I think year to year, and he said this in the interview, it's like, you got to find new stuff, otherwise you're paying for roster updates. So, I mean, it could be big. It's something new, and I mean, I'm sure it'll be fun. I don't play online a lot, so it's funny. I can't speak to this too much, but I might play online if I only have to dedicate like 20 minutes at a time to start to finish something.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty good.
Exactly. I mean, and that's the cool thing about it is it allows you to have the competitiveness in a short amount of time. And again, look, here's the thing. One thing William did jump on really big was that, obviously their esports and online play is huge. I mean, we did all watch that thing that happened in Vegas. I mean, it was a lot bigger than even I thought it was going to be. So they have to start turning their attention towards things like that. The other thing about the tournament mode, well, actually, before I jump into that, I do want to also say that he did mention that there's 2,200 new kind of items to customize these players with, which I also think is really cool. It's not something I really care about, but I know that the youth, the kind of younger players do. They like to customize the players. So I'm just saying, I think that's really cool, and I would not be surprised if I dabble in that a little bit just to kind of see what's there. But I do like that they're taking the time to kind of be able to customize. But here's the thing I wanted to say about the NHL ones. So when it comes to the thing, and this is actually the one thing we didn't talk about in this interview because I think people know it, but we didn't actually talk about the NHL gameplay. Just playing 5-on-5 NHL hockey, like the roots of the game. And that mode has frustrated me for years. But let me explain why. I play hockey. I coach hockey. It is very hard to mimic that in a video game. I'm sure that every sport across the board has problems like this. Like we all have played it when you switch to a defenseman and the other defenseman just buggers off to another area of the ice for no reason whatsoever. It's just the AI telling him to do that. So I get frustrated with the gameplay. But what I think about this tournament mode is that when it's 1 versus 1 versus 1, it's really just skill as a gamer. Yeah, you're not relying on AI for anything. That's really cool. That's to me like is what the modern NHL game's almost built for in my mind because like now it really is just a gaming competition. Right? And Ray, you can tell me if I'm wrong on that, but like the NHL mode, and again, I'm not blaming EA for this. I'm really not. It's just like as a hockey player, hockey coach, hockey person, it doesn't feel like hockey to me, but I don't hold that against them. It's a game. It's a game, and I know it is. But that's something I think this is really going to excel at, just like NHL 3s did too. It kind of takes the onus on it's not like real hockey out of the game. It becomes a game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously they've gone as far as they can in terms of gameplay, in terms of making it as realistic as possible, yet still being fun for their audience, right? Like, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, and I've seen them. I've seen their mocap studio up in EA Canada, where you have people actually on, rollerblades and like there's actually like a motion sensor puck and whatnot, and like they do the best they can.
Yeah, and let me up. I don't want it to be taken at all that I don't think that they're doing that. I think that the NHL is by far the hardest sport to emulate into a game environment. Mm-hmm. All right, I want to admit that, and I think the strides that they have taken over the last 20 years have been really amazing. Like I'm impressed with where the game's at. I'm just saying that I'm a hockey player, so it's just I just have the real experience. You know what I mean? But I really don't want anybody, especially if the gamers out there, the people who develop the game, I don't want you to think that like I'm insulting the game. I'm not. I'm just saying that there's a level of realism to it that's tough for me to overcome.
Well, I mean that's something I remember when we used to play like a long time ago. Like one of the things. I remember you used to get frustrated because you'd be like, when your AI players were like, well, they wouldn't do that in real life. And I'm like, right, but they do it in the game. So it's almost like a different set of rules, even though it's obviously still all based in the same sport of hockey.
Well, it's game rules. You just have to figure out the way to like. And Travis said this before we were on the call. Yeah, go behind the net, make a home run pass, get a breakaway, and score a goal. I mean, that's what you could do in the past. But it's like, the other thing too is that what happens sometimes in the game, and this is my fault as a gamer. I'm admitting that is, I'll want to pass the puck to a certain guy, and my brain's going, oh, pass to that guy. So I hit the pass button, right? And it's like, no, I'm not doing the right things with my controller, obviously, to make it go to that guy. But it's like, no, but I wanted to pass to that guy. But that's on me. That's not on the game. You know what I mean?
Right.
So anyway, sorry. Ray, you were talking about. I cut you off. You were talking about just the realism of the game and it being a game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just that I think that they're doing they're doing the best that they can. I think that with what they've been able to do, though, the reason why we didn't talk about in the interview too much about the actual gameplay on the ice is because they've come, at least with this generation of consoles, they've come as far as they can. In that, right? Like in terms of they have the hockey assist stuff online, that you can overlay on the ice and be like, oh, you're gonna pass here, you can pass here. They have all kinds of deeks. They have all these other things. And again, I mean, there's still stuff. I mean, and I'm a pro gamer. There's still some of these deeks that I still can't pull off on a regular basis because it's almost like a fighting game where you're kind of trying to go like this with like one joystick. You're holding 3 buttons at once just to do like a between the legs kind of shot. And it's just like, you know what? I'm just gonna pass it for a one-timer. So yeah, but they've added it. It's in there. You know, they've put it in there and they've taken their time. So I mean, I think that. It shows how much they do care and love about the game, and they are trying. Yeah. They get it. They've gotten as close as they can, at least for this console generation. And we do touch on that a little bit about them trying to hopefully have a better transition to the next one. But for this console generation, I think they've come as far as they can with the game.
Well, I think one of the problems too is it's not a problem. I think one of the perceptions is. You look at FIFA and Madden and some of the stuff they've done, and then NHL players look at the NHL games and they say, well, FIFA's got this story mode that has it's a really well done story mode where it's got like voice actors and cinematic stuff going on. And they're like, well, why can't NHL have that? And I think people kind of drag on EA a little unfairly for that because we've talked about this outside of the podcast. Obviously, is NHL's not that big of a property compared to Madden and FIFA, so they have to be really careful with their resources and really devote time to the things that people are really enjoying the game for. So, and I think they've done a good job with that.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of a story mode, I mean. I think we'd all love a story mode, but it's a lot of work. It's really hard to get a story mode going. I think that's why there wasn't a story mode again after 2 years of Longshot. There wasn't a story mode in Madden this year because it also has to make sense, right? Like, I mean, the original 2 seasons of Longshot took them, I think, close to 4 years to develop. Almost, literally half the console generation. And like you mentioned, Travis, unfortunately, I mean, when you look in terms of global sales. FIFA destroys both Madden and NHL, so of course they're going to focus more on devoting more resources into having a story mode there and kind of giving fans more what they want. I mean, this isn't to say obviously they don't want to give fans what they want in NHL. It's just a matter of EA Canada does both FIFA and NHL. I don't know what the resource allotment is, but I can guarantee you it's more towards FIFA than it is to NHL.
Yeah, keep in mind, too, that, I mean, they're essentially testing the story modes in those 2 games right now. They felt strongly enough to use their top 2 properties with it, but it's something that, like, Longshot 2 wasn't that great. Longshot 1 was, and FIFA, Travis, as you say, was pretty good, too. So I think, and Ray, this goes back to you said, it might not be for this console generation, and doing a hockey story would be tough. Because hockey players are not known for their exuberant personalities, number one. Number 2 is like you got coaching mode. You can you go through your AHL team. That's your thing. You know what I mean? And so Travis, that does lead into the fan question that Ray asked William, which was he gave a pretty good answer. He reminded us that it is it's a super fair point he made. It is an incredibly hard thing to do to turn this game around year after year, make it fresh, make it so you said, Travis, it's not just roster updates, and to give you something you're going to want to play. When you look at a story mode in NHL, if I was producing this game, my attitude would be like, they're going to hate us if we do it. They're going to hate us if we don't. Yeah. So why? It's because it's just going to get criticism anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah. NHL plus, they'd have to get Liev Schreiber to do any of the story mode, and that just sounds expensive.
Yeah. In his HBO Hard Knocks voice. The hockey team.
No. His NHL 24/7 voice.
Oh, that could be it too. Yeah. He's well known in the sports world for stuff like that. But William did give a really good answer, and I thought it was a fair point that they do hear the fans, but they have to do the changes that a majority of people want, and that they obviously cannot get to every single thing, but they're going to continue to work on the game. Again, I thought that was really fair. And like I said, I do believe that they are listening, and I think that. It's definitely a damned if you do, damned if you don't environment when it comes to listening to your fan base, but you have to do it. Mm-hmm. And it'll be really interesting to see how the fans respond to this game. But I'll tell you this, more so than NHL 19, I actually want to play this game. NHL 19 didn't have really anything that made me want to go, oh, I got to try this. Yeah. NHL 18 did, but it's like it was hit or miss. And here's the thing. There was a time period with the NHL franchise. It was winning Game of the Year every year for like 6, 7, 8 years straight, right?
Yeah,
Ray?
Best sports game. Yeah.
And like what NHL did in the kind of turn of the century was really revolutionize like the prize pack systems and like, getting player cards to do. I mean, they really were at the forefront of a lot of that stuff. Not to mention, as I said earlier, that hockey is got to be the hardest video game to make from an AI standpoint, with probably basketball kind of after it. I mean, when you look at football, baseball, and soccer, I mean, I don't want to insult the sports, but it's like it's a kind of a predetermined, like what each person's going to do. It's probably a lot easier to program a lineman than it is, a third line defenseman.
Yeah.
Like I you know what I mean? With shift changes, so it's like I get it, but here's the thing. I'm excited to try the game. I want to see where they go with this. I would like to see the NHL franchise come back to a little bit more stature, because I think that, and you can tell me, guys, if you disagree, but I think that the last 3 or 4 years it's been shrouded with more disappointment than accomplishment from the fan base. And I think that EA Sports made some of the changes they need to make. It looks like they brought in the right people. And it's going to be really interesting to see where they go here, towards the next console generation.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that I think that I'll agree with you, Lee. I don't think it's come as nearly as far as it's had to in the past few years. But I do think, again, going back to what William said, it's very hard to make a game on an annual basis and with limited resources. I mean, they're already working really on NHL 21. Like, yes, there is a team that is putting the polish and putting the finishing touches on NHL 20, which again ships September 13th for Xbox One and PS4. But what's going to end up happening is, they've already started allotting people over to the next one. Whereas most game companies and most game developers, they get a break after they ship a game, right? I mean, not to say that nobody's going to get a break either. Like, they're going to, like, obviously everybody's going to get a little bit of time off, but typically you get if you're a AAA title, if you are a top tier title, you have 2 to 4 years to develop your game, and then you usually get 3 to 6 months off afterwards to kind of like to catch your breath. They don't have that luxury, because they are an annual title. And that's also why it's sometimes difficult to get new modes into the game, or it takes a couple of years, or like, again, going back to, it took them 4 years of constantly iterating to finally get Long Shot made for Madden, and then they couldn't do it again this year. So it's something that it's a process. And of course, and I think what's been good about the NHL series is that, as I will say this, although it may not have reached its highest peaks as maybe some of those Madden years or FIFA years, I think it has actually been most consistent. I would say the lowest Madden years are worse than the lowest NHL years. Same thing with FIFA. Like, when those games like drop the ball, they really drop the ball. At least with NHL, they've constantly always hit a certain benchmark. And so, for me as a fan, especially as somebody who ended up reviewing every game for 7 years straight, basically, you always knew what you kind of, it was kind of like a comfy blanket, right? Like, you knew what you were getting. You could just be like, all right, cool. There's a familiarity there, and it's not going to be such crazy differences every year, because really, when you go into it, it's really not that broken compared to some of the other things in other games. So, at least in terms of gameplay and that stuff, they have done a good job in maintaining a good standard. I mean, that said, yes, we would like new modes. We would like them to probably support things like EA SHL more in terms of esports. Yes, we would like them to do, have some better AI. But like William said, it's an iterative process.
Travis, any final words on the game before we move on?
I mean, kind of no matter what. I mean, I'm gonna buy it. I'll put that out there too. Like,
that's a fair statement. I mean, that says a lot right there.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's something people are hungry for in the hockey world, no matter what. I mean, obviously, we're pretty plugged into people on social media. I mean, I'm part of every single fan group for every team in the NHL, and people are constantly posting like trades they've made, the gameplay, results of games, especially once the season starts. So, I mean, this is still something people want. As much as people like to complain, I think you just see some of the negative stuff a lot of times just because I think EA had a perception problem for a little bit. But I think EA as a whole is shaking that, and I'm not really worried about where the NHL games are going.
Well, here's what I'll say, guys, is that we're looking forward to it, and the release is on September 13th, I believe, 2019. Yep. NHL 20 coming from EA Sports. Again, want to thank William Ho for spending some time with us and EA Sports for giving us that. And I think this is probably just the beginning of our NHL coverage. I'm hoping, Ray, to your surprise, maybe not, but we're hoping to reincorporate some of the game back into the We Live Hockey side this year. For those of you listening who might not know, we actually did a lot of stuff with Ray a couple seasons ago. It was a lot of fun. We broadcasted live gameplay, and it was fun watching people rage quit on Ray, and he did live play-by-play. So it might be something we're going to look to bring back. But let us know if you comment below on this podcast or wherever you're watching. Comment below. Look at Ray knows it. Look, it's becoming a thing. It's becoming a thing. Comment below. If you want to see more content like this. If you want us to talk about NHL 20, and just let us know your thoughts or excitement for the game. Again, so for Travis Bowman, Ray Carsillo, I'm Lee Elias. Thank you so much for listening to this edition of We Are Geeks Who Like Sports and Live Hockey. I had to put that together and write it down and read it. All right, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
We'll cut that out.